entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Week 14, first week of the fantasy playoffs. It's here. Finally, it's here. Well, maybe you play week 15, 16. I don't know. Anyway, this is the rankings breakdown. We're going to go over the waiver wire, talk about all the injuries, all the different permutations of injury combinations that might propel people up or down in the rankings as we go along. But since we are here, I want to let you know that if you smash the like button for the episode, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Tell me where you would rank. Let's see. Who's someone this week? Benny Snell at running back, presuming James Conner is not playing this week. Where would you put him in the week 14 PPR running back rankings? You do that with your DraftKings handle in the comment section. You're in a draw for $20 DK dollars. But if you want to be in a draw for 60 DK bucks, and even if you've done it before, you can re-enter the draw by subscribing to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast, downloading the episodes, leaving a 5-star review, DraftKings handle, and something you enjoy about the show. That way, you can be in the draw for 60 DK dollars. Winners will be announced live, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, next Monday on the DraftKings YouTube channel for the season finale of the Waiver Wire Pickup Show. Joining me, actually, if you want to follow along with the rankings too, you can just go to the description of this video and you can find the rankings and the links and everything like that in there. All right? They will update throughout the course of the week as well once we know more about injuries. I shouldn't have to say that in week 14, but you'd be shocked at the amount of stupid fucking questions that I get every single week. Joining me on the line via video from theathletic.com at AllenKid on Twitter, like he is every single Tuesday. Jake Ciely, what's up?
What's up? I was hoping you were going to come to me for asking where to rank somebody because I was going to say Beowulf because he's back at quarterback. Oh, you got to go switch the camera back to see the whole thing. He's back at quarterback. Beowulf is back for the Jaguars, man.
I'm telling you, you got to leave the nicknames to me. That is a terrible nickname.
That's not my nickname. His
well,
grandfather gave it to him.
Well, his grandfather also bad at nicknames.
No, his grandfather is amazing because Beowulf is an amazing name.
It's not. It's a terrible name.
It's awesome.
You love ancient poetry, do you?
Long short stories, whatever it is that you have to read in high school. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's terrible.
The gremlin Beowulf that comes at the night and kills people by the fire. That's what Minshew does. He kills people by fire.
He really doesn't. As I think it was Jeff Vance pointed out, if the guy didn't have a mustache and wore jean shorts, he wouldn't be starting right now.
I think he would be starting at. Nick Foles just knocked that team out of playoff contention.
The team wasn't in playoff contention.
It still had a slim glimmer of hope. They were there with it. Look, that game was the game. That game knocked one of those two teams out of playoff contention, and now they're not in it, and Titans are.
All right, let's jump on the waiver wire very briefly. Dalvin Cook got hurt in the Monday night game. It does seem like it's going to be a pain tolerance issue, so he's probably going to play this week. If Alexander Mattison was available on your waiver wire, per se, but you only had one spot and you needed to start a running back this week, would you pick him up? Would you pick up Darwin Thompson, Geis, Jamal Williams, Patrick Laird, Bo Scarborough? Which of these guys do you think you'd be targeting?
If you have to start one, the only one from that list that would start without taking the risk of what the upside of Madison bringing is Bo Scarborough. Just he's safe, although I'm still not that excited about him because he's essentially a non-PPR. I think you joked about it. I don't know. There's so many freaking shows that I do at this point, but he's a lesser version. He's a poor man's version of Derrick Henry. That's who he really is. So you're going to get guaranteed production from him. You're going to get the goal line work. But the value of Madison, if Cook is out, we're talking fringe RB1, potential top 10. And as we just saw in that game, I think his use kind of similar to Rashad Penny going forward, even if Cook plays, because let's be honest about the Vikings. They're not going to say, oh yeah, Cook's fine. We'll give him another 30 touches and not use Madison with how good he's looked. It just makes no sense. And honestly, I also wouldn't be surprised if Cook is out this week just to manage his workload or just get him 100% because this supposedly was the same injury he dealt with 3 weeks ago.
So let's say if you had to start one, would you gamble, like, whether it's Bo Scarborough when we get to the rankings, whether it's Laird, whether it's whoever, guys, all these guys are going to be fringe running back twos, like low end running backs to flex plays. But like you said, if Madison is the guy and Cook actually sits for this game, which we don't know yet, then I'd probably rank him like running back 6.
I don't know if I would go quite that high, but he would definitely, like I said, he would be a legit RB1, probably, depending on the matchups. Obviously I haven't run my projections yet. That's tonight at midnight, as everybody knows at this point, hopefully. As you said, hopefully we don't have to keep saying this now at week 14. but I think he would be knocking on side the top 10. I don't know if I would put him quite that high. Madison's not Dalvin Cook. Like, let's just be realistic about it. And we've seen running back. Look, he also wouldn't be the first running back we've seen look great in 12 touches and then bomb with 20. So there's something to be said for sometimes, Kenyon Drake dealt with that for the longest time as we banged the table for Kenyon Drake getting more touches when he's the Dolphins. He leaves the team, gets more touches, has the same basically production, but just with more touches, he became less efficient.
Kenyon Drake or Lamar Miller?
Oh, Lamar Miller. Thank you. Thank
yes.
you for clearing that.
Thank you. Kenyon Drake had that one game where he was good for Arizona.
Yeah. was Lamar Miller, yes.
So it's depending on your risk tolerance, I suppose, of who you take the gamble on. If you do need the running back, Madison's probably not the guy. Unless and they're like, oh, yeah, Cook's going to sit. Then you spend whatever you have left on Madison. I mean, frankly, at this point, Madison should be owned in your league. But frankly, looking at the ownership percentages, he's not. No, and this is look. This is not sitting here, Pat or me, or say like told you so, but it is. At this point, it is. We've told you high-end handcuffs that walk into a workload that Madison would be walking into. Armstead, Gallman, Tony Pollard, go down the list. There's only about 6 to 8 of them. Anybody that would walk into a workload of that volume, even if, first of all, if you own the person in front of them, once we got past the buys, once we started talking playoffs, you need to have them on your roster. Even if you don't have those guys and you have people on your bench like a Duke Johnson, you cut Duke Johnson for somebody else's because now you probably screwed somebody else over, but you also got a potential RB1. These are the guys that should not have been sitting out there. And again, this is a proof to say, I told you so, but also for the NFL. Learn your lesson. Stop letting these guys sit on the waiver wire. I've seen, as you just mentioned, at least 5 or 6 people asked in the waiver column this week, should I blow my number one priority on Madison? And my response was, well, you shouldn't have to blow it on him because you should have had him 2 weeks ago. It is. I mean, you should have, if you had him Cook, you probably should have had him most of the season because he was very clearly the guy who was going to be the backup. Like you mentioned, Armstead would probably be number 2 or Pollard on that list. I actually have the rankings in my waiver wire column up on DKPlaybook.com where you can find all of my articles. So you can check out the handcuff rankings up there. But there's no point at this term of the season to own a wide receiver 5 or a backup quarterback. Right. Like, handcuffs and defenses that you might need to use. Like, just plan like you're going to, if you're still alive in the fantasy champion or in the fantasy playoffs, you have to construct your team as if you're going to win the championship. So it's not too early to think about week 16 as it pertains to defense. You want to get ahead of all of that now because the bench doesn't mean a ton at this point. No, and actually, that's where I'll say the backup quarterback does matter a little bit because depending on your waiver wire, if your waiver wire is picked pretty thin, because I think you were in the league with me this year that it happened, as I went to a flex championship, not doing that, not having a backup quarterback, and my 2 choices were one, somebody that might play in mop-up duty, I forget who it was, or Johnny Manziel, and I lost the championship because Johnny Manziel got me like 1.3 points that week. That was a fun week. I thought he was going to be great that week. Everybody did. That's why. And I was looking at the waiver wire and I said, hey, you know what? If worst comes to worst, I pick up Johnny Manziel. And worst did come to worst. And my quarterback got hurt. I forget who it was. And I was playing, I remember Scott Pianowski, and he made the smart move the week before and had already picked up 3 quarterbacks. And I just went in with kind of what you're saying. I got all these volume high backup running backs in case somebody got hurt. I was trying to go the other way with him because he was thin at running back, but I left myself exposed at quarterback. So don't expose yourself. That's rule 1 for fantasy and in day-to-day life, especially in public. However, if you do want to have a backup quarterback right now, go pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick. I would say Ryan Fitzpatrick or Ryan Tannehill still out there in a ton of leagues. Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick's better than Tannehill with the remaining schedule. He has the Jets, the Bengals, and someone else who sucks. I think the Giants. I was about to look at their schedules to compare the two. Yeah, the Jets, Giants, and Bengals. You want that. Just take Fitzmagic. I was going to say, actually, week 16, Tannehill's got the Saints, so that's not great. Yeah. Let's get into the running back rankings for the week. Likely in for these rankings. And again, this will change as the week goes along. Dalvin Cook, shoulder. Matt Breida, I expect him to be back with his ankle injury. Marlon Mack expects to return with his hand injury, likely out. Jordan Howard, James Conner, Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, and Kalen Blage with his leg. Now, some of these guys might end up playing. Hold on. Yeah. Hold on. Pat, did you say we get the return of the Mac? That's you're getting there. You're your regular Mark Morrison. You got to commit to it if you're going to do it. You got to be like, she lied to me. There you go. See, you're better at it than I am. I just did a little bit of a dance. You did the white man shuffle? Yeah. Shuffle. Yeah. At least you didn't get like the guns on the go. Oh, the finger guns? Sweet music
Fantasy?
from
We're-
sweet music from. I want to say that. What year did that song come out? I want to say
Return of the Mac.
I want to say I want to say I was in 6th grade, so 1996.
That was going to be my
1995?
guess. It was 96.
Now I got to go look that up.
Now you're gonna look it up. While you're looking it up, I
Morrison.
almost bought a Funko today. They just released a brand new one. It's pre-order. It's Ice Cube, and he's riding in a Bentley.
1996. Stuff.
Yeah, we're great.
Stuff I remember. Anyway, back to running backs. Number 1 in the rankings, Christian McCaffrey. No shocker. Derrick Henry, I have at numero 2. Fournette at 3. Zeke, Cook, Chubb, Gordon, Bell, Carson, Kamara. Even if it's a reduced workload and it's like 60-40 for Dalvin Cook, it's still a great matchup against the Lions. Then Jacobs at 11. Mixon, Barkley, Jones, Gurley. Fantasy Pros has gloriously ranked Mark Ingram at number 16 against Buffalo. Kareem Hunt, Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary. Into at numero 21, we have Freeman, McCoy, Lindsey, Max, Scarborough, Duke Johnson, David Montgomery, Flea Market, Benny Snell, James White, and Darius Geist. That's my top 30 of the week. Who would you move up? Who would you move down?
There's not a lot here. I think you're doing a good job. I would move Devontae Freeman up, despite the fact that I haven't trusted him for most of the year. The one thing I will say, well, there's actually two things with this: is first game back got a heavy workload. I mean, they basically treated him as a bell cow in his first game back. He's got another 10 days on top of it, and it is the Carolina Panthers run defense, which was abysmal. They lost on Terry Poe. It became abysmaler. It's just run against the Panthers. And I know Devontae Freeman hasn't looked that good in the run game, more so in the pass game has been where he's done a lot of his damage. But I got to over split backfields. Like, I love Kareem Hunt. I don't have a problem where you have him overall, but I would feel better if Devontae Freeman than the backups of like the Hunt, the Eckler, the Sender, basically the split backfields.
Well, I think Hunt and Eckler are two separate situations from the rest of the split backfield guys because they do so much in the receiving game. Obviously, this is PPR, and against Cincinnati and Jacksonville, two teams that you can really run on. I just think that there's ample opportunity for them to set a floor. I get the argument for Devonta Freeman and the matchup that he has. I just still don't trust him all that much. And
I don't. The use was there though.
The use was there, but he wasn't always in near the goal line though, and that really caps his upside.
That's slightly concerning, but he was in there a few times. Maybe they go back to the Brian Hill and Kadri Olsen and all that. Again, it's knowing he's probably going to get close to 20 touches again. They kind of gave him almost that in his first game back. They stopped screwing around with Brian Hill. They stopped screwing around with all those other guys and Barner and Olsen and all that type of stuff. And again, look at what just Darius Geist did on, 12 or 13 total touches. Adrian Peterson did on even less than that. I'm not saying Devontae Freeman's going to run for $150 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you are. No, that's what you said.
All right.
I heard
$135 and 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
RB1.
I'm going to move him up. I still like Hunt and Eckler better, but I can stomach Freeman over Miles Sanders and Devin Singletary this week. How about that?
That's fair. At least moved him up a little bit.
Singletary's really good, by the way. He just doesn't score. I guess he scored a touchdown that was thrown by John Brown last week. But
right.
Josh Allen, if Josh Allen didn't steal all of his touchdowns, he'd be like a top 10 back.
How about the fact that we got 2 wide receivers throwing for touchdowns this past week?
Who was the other one?
Hopkins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had a kicker throw to a punter for a touchdown.
Yeah, from that freaking... That was the punt that got blown up years ago where people were like, what the hell are they doing? And they tried to pull off that 1 lineman thing or whatever, 2 linemen, whatever it was, and he got destroyed. And this time it ended up working for a touchdown. Did you see the little clip that the Dolphins actually overlaid with It's a Trap from Star Wars?
No, I did not see that. I did see that one of their linemen was laughing the entire time when they were running onto the field. Because why not?
That's going to be a clue something's coming.
Yeah. I have... the hell is his name? Chris Carson. That's the guy. I have him ranked pretty highly here, and I don't have Penny ranked super highly. Should I rectify that and make them closer? I just have more faith. I know that Penny had the better game than Carson on Monday night. However, when I think about it, like against the Rams in this type of game, I can just see Carson getting the ball more. I really can.
It's more so that Carson not only got banged up, but it was coming off the fumble. He was getting the work. He came back into the game, got the work, got the first touchdown, actually. He got the touchdown before Penny's because both of his came in the second half. We've talked about the Rams before this year that they're tough to run against, especially if you're kind of more up the middle. So I'm torn. I would actually, to what your question was, I would move Penny up a little bit and Carson back a little bit, but not a lot. Like you have them in decent spots. I mean, we're probably nitpicking about like 3 spots for each, but I just feel like Penny might be able to do more because he can get outside easier than Carson, and Carson might just get the volume, which offsets the concerns of running up the middle. So I'm still with you on Carson. I would rank Carson higher. I would rank Carson higher by probably at least a tier, if not more, like you have them. But I would move them just a little bit closer to each other.
All right, I'm going to move Rashad Penny up to 1 spot ahead of Royce Freeman and 1 spot behind Kenyon Drake. I can't figure out what to do with Drake, but he's the one who's playing in the backfield. Just they're playing the Steelers. They stunk last week. Maybe they end up getting it back together a little bit. Like Edmonds was active and played 0 snaps. Feel like that probably changes this week.
I think so as well. And you brought up the other name, though, that we got that going that far of somebody I would move back. Royce Freeman, in my opinion, deserves to be down by like Tevin Coleman at this point. He's not doing anything.
It's really strange, though, because he's playing more snaps than Lindsey. It's just they're giving Lindsey the ball every single time that he's on the field. So I thought that was kind of
like a wide receiver that just never sees targets. He's weird.
I got Laird.
Like who's? I got Laird. It's the one for the Colts. Chester Rogers. He's Chester Rogers. Yeah, and Chester Rogers is on the field all the time and never gets passes thrown his way.
Well, Chester Rogers will not be on the field anymore. I believe he was placed on injured reserve.
Yeah,
he did.
I was just thinking back to. I was just thinking back to when he had the second most snaps, and I think he was just put up the goose egg.
Yeah, so I moved Penny into flex territory. The problem with Penny is that I don't know if there's a floor or not. We just saw what the upside is. And this matchup isn't horrendous against the Rams. They're more difficult to run on, but Seattle's committed to running, so there's touches to go around. But if Carson starts having a good game, he's going to get first crack that Penny could just be left watching on the sidelines. Then you're kind of up shit's creek.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. Like, see, it's one side of it. Pete Carroll, as you know, when I was at the combine, he says he sees a role for both of them. I don't think Penny gets completely sidelined. I actually think now going forward, and again, because of this matchup, I think it's fair where you have him. If it was a better matchup and Hunt's got we're basically opposite ends of the spectrums with the matchups right here. But I think if an equal matchup, like just say they were both facing the Bengals this week, I think Penny's now in the conversation of Kareem Hunt usage-wise week to week. I think Pete Carroll is going to keep using him and keep using him similar to the Browns using Kareem Hunt now.
Well, the only difference between Kareem Hunt and Penny is that in the Seahawks offense, it's either Carson or Penny. At least in the Browns offense, it could be Chubb and Hunt at the same time.
Right. And that's a valid point. But, I mean, you can only touch the ball once, even if you're both on the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but at least I still want the guy who's playing more snaps, theoretically, because at least he has more chances to touch the ball.
I'm still looking at just pure touches, but the point being is I think that Penny deserves to be mentioned. He's kind of in like the Darius guys, Kareem Hunt, again, a slight tick behind Kareem Hunt, but up in that, saying if you need to start him as your RB3 or your flex, I actually feel good about it now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't feel great about it. I would not feel great going into my playoffs and be like, I'm starting Rashad Penny this week. What's that?
Out of 10 as your flex running back, what would you feel your goodness factor is out of 10?
5.
Oh, I'd say like 7.5.
No, I'd say 5. Either it's going to be really good or really bad. That's how it feels.
So he's the Deshaun Jackson of running backs?
Yeah, a little bit. Laird, I have at 31. If Balaj sits, he's probably going to play 80% of the snaps. The Jets defense is tough to run on, but I'm not here to get Patrick Laird going on the ground. He could catch like 7 passes, and that's a good enough floor. He's like what Chris Thompson was that like at the beginning of last year when it was just Thompson in the Skins backfield, where it's like 8 rushes for 13 yards and 8 catches, like that kind of game.
Yeah, and like Laird is, I would say at least 12-team full PPR, maybe half-point PPR for your 14-team league, and only in your flex, just because. Like we saw, what was it, 10 rushes for 5 yards? He's not going to do much running the ball. It's going to have to mostly come into the passing game. So he's not even a poor man's James White. I mean, he's like the hobo James White.
Yeah, and Kareem Hunt, I mean, after James White did have a giant game on Sunday, but Kareem Hunt basically became Eckler and Hunt this year have been what everyone wanted James White to be every single week.
Oh, 100%.
So that's why I have them where they are. They're top 20 backs in PPR. San Francisco guys, can you start any of them? I would actually kind of...
No.
I have Breda ranked the highest because I don't know if he's going to play or not. So if he does play, guaranteed to go off.
So in this week's waiver column, I now have a new section. It's called Outside the Circle of Trust. You cannot start these people in your playoffs. Colts running backs, Chiefs running backs, 49ers running backs and Bucks running backs. And I included all the 49ers, including Tevin Coleman, including Breida. I'm with you. If Breida is active, he would be far, like he's not ahead of everybody to say he's far in first place. The confidence factor is I feel like he's first place and then everybody else. If he's out, then I think you could start Mostert. And so, but that's going to come down to, as you mentioned, it sounds like Breida's returning this week. So now you can't trust any of them.
Yeah, and if Breida ends up sitting, you could go to Colonel Mostert. But if Coleman has like 2 nice runs to start the game, all of a sudden it could just be him again.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, you got a call out on my timeline because on Sunday I was being stupid after that big play, and I said more like must start, and somebody said no, it's Colonel Mustard. So there you go.
See, people know. Apparently, Chris Berman also referred to him as Colonel Mostert on Monday night, which you
got robbed.
I don't listen. That is an homage. That's a great. If I'm on the same page as Chris Berman with his nicknames, I feel very good about it.
I don't know if I ever want to be on the same page as Chris Berman.
Oh, Berman rules. Berman. He still does the fastest 3 minutes in sports and like the football highlights are still probably my favorite highlight recaps of all time.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm just tired. Just go away from the home run derby. It's not funny anymore.
Well, he's not on the home run derby anymore.
I know. So he's gone. I thought he came back last year.
I don't think so. He just has that show with Tej on ESPN Plus.
I don't mind. I definitely don't mind the 3 minutes. Just whoop whoop. Like all that stuff is old now.
I don't care. I still really enjoy it. It's like people who have watched the show for a while may remember Cam Stewart. Chris Berman just reminds me of Cam Stewart. He was a great hang.
I could definitely see that. I will say one thing though for Chris Berman: just commit to the bald. Just stop.
Yeah, see, or just wear a hat like you.
Well, I'm not bald. I just haven't had time because I had to take the puppy to get spayed today. I feel like a dick, man. Funny play on words considering.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't cut off their dick, so that's probably pretty good for their
that's
sake.
kind of different. Yeah.
So you're listening to Bob Barker on this stuff.
Oh yes, get your pet spayed or neutered. Yes. He's still the new one. Does Drew say it? Does he say that to close things out too?
I don't know if I've ever watched a full episode of Price is Right since Drew Carey has been the host. And I think he's been the host for like 15 years now.
I know. Thin Drew, who's creepy when he's thin. He needs to go back to being happy, fat Drew Carey.
No, I think he's healthier now that he's a bit slimmer, Drew Carey.
He's healthier, but he's weird looking now.
That's just because that's a preconceived notion that you have in your head. Marlon Mack. If he's back, he's playing the Bucks, which is not a great matchup, especially for a guy that doesn't catch a ton of passes. I have him ranked like right around Bo Scarborough. Like when I first did the ranks, I had him a bit higher. Then I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, he's coming off injury. He has a hand injury against a team that you can't really run on, and he doesn't catch passes. That basically just makes him Bo Scarborough.
It really kind of does. And I don't know that he gets I don't know. He walks back into the workload he was getting from before with Jonathan Williams looking good for 2 games and then inexplicably getting unseated by Jordan Wilkins because, he's such a terrific talent. And Jordan Wilkins was Jordan Wilkins. Naeem Hines had the second most snaps and was using the passing game. I just listed off the backfields that are not in the circle of trust. That's one of them. I don't even want to start Marlon Mack. And even if he's out, I don't want to touch any of the rest of them either. I want to avoid this backfield as much as possible.
Kansas City running back. What do you think the expectation is going to be? That both Williams are out?
So that's the only way. I said they're in the circle. They're not in the circle of trust either. But if both Williams are out, I feel like we're going to get Darwin Thompson more touches and more snaps. LaShawn McCoy is still going to be basically what he was with Damian Williams. He's going to get around 8 to 10, maybe. A lot of them coming at the goal line if they get there and do decide to run the ball. But Darwin Thompson is going to outsnap and outtouch him and therefore has the higher ceiling. I would rank Darwin Thompson ahead of him. But as LaShawn McCoy has shown over the past couple games, he ends up getting the touchdown on like 6 touches. So either way, you might have to use either one of them. But if all three, if those two and a third being one of the Williamses is active, then I don't even want to touch the backfield.
That would be the whole thing. If one of the Williams is active, let's say Damian Williams is active, I'd probably play him above the other two. But as it stands right now, if both Williams are out, I would play Shady over Darwin Thompson. I think Darwin Thompson's more of a Hail Mary play. And I agree with you. The upside is probably higher with Darwin Thompson. I just don't believe that there's a floor there.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm with you too. If Damian Williams is active, he would be the one to assume and he would be the one to start. But I don't know if he's getting 15 touches at this point. We're not going to know. That's one of the things we can't tell you. Andy Reid would be stupid to let us know.
Tampa Bay Would you play any of their running backs? Because
No.
I played Ronald Jones on DraftKings last week. Let me tell you, did not work out well.
No, it didn't. I have been continually saying all year long in the waiver column, I put Ronald Jones there after his big game. I put Peyton Barber the game after there, and they're always in the meh section, as in, I'm not picking them up. I recommend not picking them up because you're just chasing the games. You're chasing the use, and every single time you chase it, this is now kind of like the Jared Cook. At least Jared Cook, as you saw when I tweeted it, it included you, Pat. At least he had 6 straight games of decent production. It's like every time Ronald Jones has a good game, people put him in his lineup, and then he does nothing, and it's Peyton Barber. So they go back to Peyton Barber, and then he lets them down. And they go back to Ronald. Stop. You should have learned 6 weeks ago to stop with this nonsense. I'm pretty sure Bruce Arians, smiling and laughing on that first Peyton Barber touchdown, was laughing at us.
Was there any more Jared Cook play ever than him dropping a touchdown wide open in the end zone?
You saw that firsthand on Twitter when I said that everything's been rectified. As soon as I said, I can't believe he's got 6 games in a row of being consistently good. And then you tweeted about it, and then he drops the touchdown, and it's just like, oh, the world is okay again.
That is just classic Jared Cook performance. And anyone who started Jared Cook, I hope you lost by 7 points or less, because that's just what happens when you play Jared Cook. 2 more backfields. Pittsburgh backfield. I would play Snell over playing Jalen Samuels this week.
I would too. And I would, if Connor is out there, I would play him. But
yeah,
that floor is a 0. He could exit again early.
Washington backfield. You have Thompson, you have Peterson, and you have Geis. I have Geis ranked the highest. However,
Yes.
I could see Chris Thompson doing the majority of the damage fantasy-wise. Like, if you told me at the end of the week, Chris Thompson outscored both of them by 5 points, I would not be surprised.
I'd be mildly surprised just because I still don't think he's 100%. I think he's as in 100.
He played more snaps than the other 2 last week.
No, I know. That's why I was going to clarify for everybody out there, assuming I mean like 100% health. Like, I think he might just be 100% of what he can be at this point, and I don't think what he is at this point is what the Chris Thompson we used to know. Like, watching him play, he doesn't look like the Chris Thompson we remember from a year or 2 years ago. That's what I'm saying.
Duke Johnson or Carlos Hyde? I'm going to go with Duke Johnson. He's just better.
He is, but who they face this week? Denver?
Yeah.
I'd lean Duke Johnson, especially because you're a full point PPR. But the Denver run defense, it's been vulnerable at times, and other times it's been able to shut things down. Carlos Hyde feels like the better play, but if it's full point PPR, I'll chase the upside with Duke Johnson. Half point PPR, I'm probably going back to Carlos Hyde.
I would say better chance of a touchdown, Carlos Hyde, but if I want to get at least 10 points, I would think that's probably coming from Duke Johnson.
I'm hoping you don't have to start either of them if you're in the playoffs.
Some people do. Like, I'm looking at one team right now, 14-person league. I have Lamar at quarterback. I have 4 awesome receivers to fill out. I have like Tyreek Hill, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, and DJ Chark for my 3 wide receivers and a flex. I have Evan Ingram, who I've been patching with Mike Gesicki at tight end. And my running backs are like Tevin Coleman, Patrick Laird, Kalen Ballage, because I had James Conner. I just don't have running backs. Like, these guys are definitely on the table for me to patch together a running back 2 this week.
That's all right. So in that scenario, that almost sounds like your flex team from a couple of years ago.
I mean, I build my teams very much almost entirely the same way every single time, except for the leagues where I have, like, people rooked me on Jacobs and Carson in that league because they know that's who I was going after. So the rest of the teams that I have Jacobs and Carson, and then this just one team is a weird outlier just based on where I picked because everyone just looked at my rankings and sniped me right before I picked. It sucked.
And you know the pain of being in home leagues and they show up to the auction with your auction values.
Yeah, joke's on them. Those rankings not very good.
Oh, I was talking about mine.
Oh, yeah, yours are pretty good. Mine are just dog shit. Wide receivers. Likely in. I do think Adam Thielen returns, so I put him in the rankings. I think that Julio returns. I put him in the rankings. John Ross expected to be back with his collarbone injury, and Mohamed Sanu with his ankle should play. Likely out, and again, this can change. Hit the description for the links to the updated rankings as the week goes longer. Just check out dkplaybook.com. Devin Funchess, Taylor Gabriel, Deshaun Jackson, Juju, AJ Green, Paul Richardson, Golden Tate, T.Y. Hilton, Jakeem Grant, Paris Campbell, Trey Quinn, and Hunter Renfrow. I have all as likely out for the moment, out officially. Chester Rogers with his knee injury. So The rankings, Devontae Adams, number 1. Michael Thomas, in a bad matchup, he's still number 2. DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Devontae Parker, number 5 against the Jets. Let's go. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill, Kenny Golladay with my guy, Mr. Blau at quarterback. What's his name? His name again? Mr. Blau.
Oh, that's not what I said to my buddies.
Cortland Sutton at number 11. Keenan Allen, Julian Edelman, Stefan Diggs, Adam Thielen, Calvin Ridley, Brown, DJ Chark, Jarvis Landry, Allen Robinson. Into Alshon, Kupp, Boyd, Gallup, Cooper, Odell, Woods, Sanders, Shepard, Tyler Lockett. Let's start with Tyler Lockett. What do I do with Tyler Lockett?
So if people watch the game, and there's some people who did see it because they tweeted the same thing I did, and you were watching for Lockett because there's probably a lot of people specifically watching for Lockett because he's on their fantasy team and what should have been a good matchup for him and an opportunity to make some noise, especially heading into your playoffs. So there's a lot of people that saw the same thing. Russell Wilson's not looking at him that much. Tyler Lockett was running free a couple times and wasn't even looked at. And, whether the play was designed to be the second read or the third read, this goes back to something I told you about that D'Angelo brought to me on the podcast about Odell Beckham and why he's not seeing as many targets is because they're practicing with him double covered and Baker Mayfield's inexperienced. So he kind of writes Odell Beckham out of his mind, which kind of makes me think this. Is Russell Wilson smart enough to not do that? I'm thinking Russell Wilson might be not looking at it because maybe he's still not 100%. Maybe he's still never fully recovered from that injury to go all the way back to the bye week. And he's kind of treating him as a second or third receiver instead of his number 1. So you have to start him. He's Tyler Lockett. We've seen before at the start of the season, 2 catches can be 90 yards and a touchdown day for him. He's one of the more efficient wide receivers when targeted because he's coming from one of the most efficient quarterbacks. So I think where you have him is actually a fair spot. He's kind of now in that if Juju Smith-Schuster plays this week, he's in that conversation. Juju Smith-Schuster can finish as a wide receiver 1. We just saw what the floor was for actually him before he got hurt and now Lockett in one game.
Rams receivers, it's a pretty good matchup against the Seahawks. It's hard to figure out which one is going to be the guy on any particular week. Could this just be a Brandon Cooks rebound week?
I don't know that Brandon Cooks has a rebound. He would have to do something first.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, I think we talked about it last week. If it wasn't on this show, I said it to Chris on the show over there where I said strip the name off the back of the jersey. And this person's on waiver wires in 90% of leagues. Nobody even has him because the only reason we're even ranking Brandon Cooks at a respectable spot is because we know what his ceiling is, but he hasn't even hit that ceiling really. What does he have? One really good game. So if it wasn't for the fact he's Brandon Cooks, he shouldn't even be in a starting conversation.
Yeah, I have him down at 34, bunched up with like Will Fuller, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Robbie Anderson.
And that's where he should be at this point.
It's like the big play guy tier, but they could also put up 1 point.
Yeah, so I think actually putting him right by Will Fuller is a perfect spot for it. We just saw last week with Will Fuller again. That should have been his touchdown, and then it got taken away, and it's almost – I mean, you're waiting for that one big play, and if it doesn't pop, that's actually going to be overranked.
So we're good with, we've been ranking Landry in front of Beckham for weeks now. That's been working out. Dude, is my ranking of Devontae Parker too aggressive? Because I feel like against the Jets, it's not. I considered ranking him number 1.
That's certainly fair. If he's going to continue to get that kind of target volume, and if you look at what happened in that game, for Albert Wilson and Allen Hurns to still only get mediocre use and Devontae Parker was hot that game. Devontae Parker has turned into what we waited 4 years for, a number 1 wide receiver. Is he in that? I'll ask you, I guess you put him in the circle of trust at this point, because it still feels like because we have so many years of him that we're ready to get burned. You know who ready to get burned? Who I told you I was going to put him in worst place with Sam Darnold. Freaking dude, I didn't want to trust him. Didn't want to trust him. Finally bit the bullet because I was wrong 2 weeks ago about not trusting him. And then I get on board. Now he's in worst place for me, whether he's not for you. I just kind of feel like there's always the Devontae Parker week where that could happen as well, despite him being good over multiple weeks now.
I just don't know what more you could want from him at this point. So just going
Neither
back.
do I.
Just going back. So here are his past, let's say, I don't know. He has at least 55 yards in each of his past 8 games. He has 4 touchdowns over that span. He has at least 5 catches in all those games except for 1. And in the past 3 weeks, he's put up 159 yards and 2 touchdowns on 7 targets, 10 targets, sorry. Double-digit targets in each of his past 4 games, 6 for 91 the week before, 7 for 135 the week before that, 5 for 69 the week before that. And this is the best matchup he has.
Well, that's the biggest thing is the matchup definitely helps because the 1-0 game with multiple targets was obviously against the Patriots. And I think that's always in the back of everybody's mind. And that's what I'm saying is it's not for what he's been doing, for how everything you just rattled off, or the way that he's been playing. He's a top 10 wide receiver right now. The problem is why I was bringing up the question that people are going to have is because they've been burned, not just 1 year, multiple years. And I think that's what's in the back of everybody's mind.
Okay, if I was 5 out of 10 for Rashad Penny on how much do I trust him as my flex scale, how do you feel about Zach Pascal if Hilton sits against Tampa?
3.
Against
3.
Tampa?
Still, it's look, I've said this before, and Pascal worked last week, but Pascal's in that same conversation as the guy I always go to as the perfect example. A couple of years when Randall Cobb was asked to be the number 1 for the Packers, and Randall Cobb in his prime, when he was asked to be the number 1 for the Packers, couldn't handle it. Some wide receivers, I'm even wearing my ODU hat for Zach Pascal. Some wide receivers can't handle that attention. Chris Meany for our site, he said that Juju Smith-Schuster was going to be his bust wide receiver of the year, not expecting Ben Roethlisberger to get hurt and not expecting Juju Smith-Schuster to not even still be inside the top 15. But he was saying he wouldn't be top 5 because he's not fully equipped skill-wise to command that kind of defensive attention every single week. So it is a really good matchup. But as we saw last week, that always doesn't mean everything depending on what the play might be. And part of the play is Pascal. If he's double covered the entire game, despite being from terrible players, he might just not get looked at that much by Jacoby Brissett.
That's a fair point. I think I would still roll the dice on him for potential upside in this
absolutely.
particular matchup.
Where did you put him?
31.
And I think that's a fair spot. And that's why, to all everything being said, just don't put him inside the top 20. For people out there, I wouldn't put him inside the top 25 just because he's facing the Bucs.
Oh, no, me neither. I think that if you need to turn to Pascal, that's fine. I wouldn't go out of my way and be like, I'm going to start Zach Pascal this week.
Would you start Pascal or Tyler Lockett?
I'd start Tyler Lockett.
Okay.
Just
I would too.
I can't pass on. I know he's been just horrendous, but I couldn't do that.
Neither could I. And it's also go back to the quarterback as Russell Wilson versus Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, but it's even like Beckham. Like logically, you should probably start Pascal over Beckham at this point. But I'm going to start Beckham.
Yeah, performance wise, but yeah, watch Beckham go off these 2 weeks or next 3 weeks when most of the Beckham owners probably aren't even in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, it'll be like the Derrick Henry situation from last year. Again. Yeah, Derrick Henry goes off and wins like 1% of people a fantasy championship because everyone who owned Derrick Henry was way out of the playoffs by that point. No, Beckham needs to rehabilitate his fantasy stock going into next year, so he needs to have like 2 of 3 gigantic games to end the season.
The bad thing was unfortunately Odell Beckham didn't have the drop ability of what Henry had last year, because you talked about that. I actually won a championship on the back of Derrick Henry because somebody dropped him in like week 11 or 12 because they were tired of it. And I was like, fine, I'll just throw him on my bench just in case anything were to happen to one of my running backs. And he went ballistic. I missed the first game because I wasn't starting him, but I got the next 2.
I would have ranked DK Metcalf higher in the rankings and way ahead of Lockett, but I just think he draws Jalen Ramsey here, and that's not good news for him.
So that's definitely not good news, especially if it's not good news of what DK Metcalf is. You've seen the next gen stats tweeted out and everything. He lines up and runs almost the exact same 3 routes on the left side all the time. And granted, a lot of them with the given skill, he can get open at times. He can create separation. He can out-leap the person when there's not separation and out-muscle him. That's everything he brings. But you're putting it against an elite corner who can say, you know what? I know how to play somebody who can only run 3 routes. So he's developed a little bit more than he was at the beginning of the year, but you're right in the fact that this matchup is a legit worry. The only upside here is hopefully he can get away from Ramsey at sometimes, but there's another one. We're not going to know. I mean, if they decide to put Ramsey on Lockett and just take him away, you just never know.
I just don't feel like, because Lockett moves around the formation so much, I just think they'll keep Ramsey on the outside where he's more comfortable instead of having him run around trying to shadow Lockett on different positions of the field. At least that's
no. I just meant when Lockett.
Ramsey rarely does that.
Right. I meant when Lockett moves outside, does Ramsey switch only for those times that Lockett's outside?
Potentially so, and maybe the Rams try to force some sort of bracket coverage onto Metcalf. But unless DK scores a touchdown, he's probably not going to be all that good in this game.
That's pretty much what he's been this year.
It was funny because he was kind of good on Monday night before the fumble, despite not scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, and I think isn't that his first game where he was like heading towards double digits without scoring a touchdown?
Yeah.
Like I feel like most of his games have been. He's kind of like in Sammy Watkins, but like better Sammy Watkins.
Oh God, Sammy Watkins. Sleeper guys this week. If you like, were in a pinch and had to start, like Cole Beasley, I think you can start him even against Baltimore. I think he does just enough to be a guy that's not going to kill you. James Washington kind of feels that way. Darius Slayton feels that way. Russell Gage feels that way. Again, not guys that you want to go out of your way, but depending on how deep your league is, how many injuries that you're currently dealing with, I think you can play all of those guys.
So you named my sleepers that I haven't written up yet, but I already listed them. My 3 wide receivers are Pascal, James Washington, and Marvin Jones this week.
All right. How about John Ross potentially returning here?
In first game back, don't love it, especially with the Cleveland Browns healthy. And it's not like it's a scary defense. It's just concerning enough that it's his first game back. If you looked at it, 2 amazing games to start the season and 2 crap games after that, because that's who John Ross is. But also Tyler Boyd's there. You know, Auden Tate has shown he's essentially Cole Beasley for this team. It's just every single week, 7 to 12 points. He's just going to get his production and get his production and get his production. I don't know. Are we talking 30 snaps for John Ross? And granted, he can do like the Will Fuller and take anyone to the house, but I don't know if I want to start him my first game back, not knowing what a snap count is going to be, and not the greatest matchup. It's definitely not the matchup of the Browns were 5 weeks ago.
I would probably rather play John Ross on a few DraftKings lineups and put him into my playoff fantasy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's
how
about
about
with him.
How about Terry McLaurin or John Ross?
I play McLaurin.
Would you?
I would.
You know who's been better for them as late? Kelvin Harmon. Because McLaurin's getting like the defensive attention and Harmon's just been able to free up as that possession guy.
Well, McLaurin's open. Just Haskins can't get him the ball.
Well, yeah, that's because he looks like 3 yards downfield every pass.
Yeah. Well, McLaurin had one. He was just at the back of the end zone last week, and the ball was just too far out of the back of the end zone. Like he caught it, but he was out of bounds.
Nah, I think Haskins was throwing it to that guy he took the selfie with from the week before.
Well, I mean, Haskins he won a game. He's fantastic. He's just the best quarterback in the league now.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Best at selfies, at least. Quarterbacks. Let's talk about these guys. You're probably going to start who you are going to start this week. Congratulations. You really rooked me with Deshaun Watson last week. That was nice. Not great for me on that front whatsoever. He didn't have a good game, but he had a whole bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. I told you, there's no way I'm benching Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, well, you were right. I was wrong, as I normally am on that. So congratulations to you. Likely in, I have Baker Mayfield. Likely out, I have Matt Stafford with his back problem. Jeff Driscoll has been placed on injured reserve. So I have Lamar number 1, Russell Wilson. I have Kirk Cousins at number 3. I just think they're going to wax Detroit at home. Breeze?
Is that with or without? Is that with Dalvin Cook?
I don't care if it is with Dalvin Cook because I have him in the ranks, but I don't care whether Cook plays or not.
Okay.
Drew Brees, Jameis Winston, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Tannehill. That's my top 10. If you had told me before the season Fitzpatrick and Ryan Tannehill would be inside my top 10, I would have laughed at myself. But here we are. I should probably still be laughing at myself. These matchups are so nice.
Can we get like Ryan Mallett in there too to get all the Ryans?
No, you can't have Ryan Mallett. He can't read.
Ryan and Ryan. All right, look, hey, you know what I'm going to say? Deshaun Watson's too low, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I like the other matchups of the elite guys better this week.
Yeah, that's fair. Drew Brees against the 40. I would actually go Deshaun Watson over Drew Brees if you want to like double down and try to get your money back.
Okay, yeah, I'll go Brees. I'll go Brees over Deshaun this week.
Okay.
The one and the most contributing factor to that for me with Watson is going to be the opponent that they're playing. Like, although San Francisco runs the ball a lot, that's just more difficult to do against the Saints, and they still play more of an up-tempo type game. So I expect more plays to be run, even though the San Francisco defense is obviously a lot better. But I do like the Saints offense in this game at home on the fast track. And really, with the Niners coming off a big game last week, I can see it a little bit of a letdown. And if the offensive line is healthy for the Saints, they should be able to protect Drew Brees for at least a huge amount of the game. Against the Broncos, you had previously pointed out that the Broncos' run defense is not the greatest. So I can see a lot of running coming from the Texans side of the ball. And that's all the Broncos do. So that game is just going to be over super quickly. And I just don't see as many plays run between the two teams. I can actually see there being like 20 more plays run in that Saints-Niners game than in the Broncos-Texans game. So it would have to require a huge efficiency effort from Deshaun Watson in order to hit that peak. And while he can do that, it's just like, even if they run the game 10 times last week, does he get to 4 touchdowns? Probably not.
No. But all right, I mean, hey, you gave a lot there for your reason why, and it's all valid reasoning. I'm not gonna say it's not.
You just don't agree. And listen, not agreeing with me generally wins people bucks.
No, what wins people bucks is you saw the screenshot I sent you. Is having a lot of Devontae Parker and who was the other one that went bananas? I had both of them. Who was the other wide receiver that went bananas last week?
Robert Woods.
Yes, I had so much Parker and Woods. It was just those two, and it didn't really matter what much your lineup was after that.
I had one that had Gesicki, Alshon, Woods, and the quarterback was Foles.
Oh,
It was Foles and Chark and those guys. And it's just like, oh, come on, man. Just do something. Don't get
awful.
benched. Just don't get benched. Don't have minus points.
Did he finish with negative on DraftKings? I know he finished negative.
He did finish with negative on DraftKings, yes. Not great. Not a great performance, no. Nick. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick.
So the rest of the rankings, I have Wentz at number 11 against the Giants at home. I mean, he was good last week, although the Eagles lost. He was a fantastic fantasy performer. Josh Allen, Dak, Ryan, Darnold, Kyler, Goff, Brady, Brissett, Rivers. I'd feel comfortable down to Carson, really. Josh Allen's always a play, and so is Dak, based on what they can do with their legs, but those are two brutal matchups for them.
They are. And the only one I'm looking at that I really would feel good about or feel strongly about, I would put Brissett over Kyler Murray against the Steelers defense.
I just worry about Brissett without Hilton. That's my only reservation.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more confident, and I'm a little bit more concerned about that Steelers defense in general. I mean, we just saw how much Kyler Murray has struggled. So if this is another defense that's legitimately inside that top three ever since they traded for Fitzpatrick. That's, in my opinion, as worrisome as we just saw Kyler Murray struggle last week.
Almost to the same effect as Josh Allen and Dak, that Kyler can kind of get there with his legs if it comes down to it, and Brissett just doesn't run. He still looks hurt.
He does, but he's outperforming in pass-wise.
Sure, put it this way. If Hilton plays, I'm going to move him up for sure. If Hilton doesn't play, I just feel like his ceiling is capped.
It might be, but I would still feel like, do you want the... Do you want the reliable play, or do you want the upside?
At quarterback, I would roll the dice. And I think that Murray could score twice as much as Brissett. He could score less than him, for sure. But if we're talking about like ceilings, that's what I want at quarterback. If I'm forced to go down into this range, I would just take Kyler.
I'm still, like I said, I'm still worried. I mean, last week, what did Kyler Murray have? 13 points, even with a rushing touchdown. So for all the running that's supposed to help him, it still was a bad game.
It was a bad game, but if that's going to be his bad game, and he was awful in that contest, 13 points, I mean, if that's your floor, that's not bad.
It's not. I'm just making my case.
I mean, how many points did Brissett score last week?
I don't know.
I think it was less.
I don't know. I don't have everybody here. I'll find out. I don't have everybody's last week's scores off the top of my head. So Let's see. I'm clicking on it. No, you wait. No, I'm just kidding. Jacoby Brissett was 12.7. Kyler Murray was 13.3.
Yeah, and Brissett played okay until he started throwing picks in the fourth quarter. It was just a very game managery type game. Now, this is about
yards against the Titans.
What's that?
I said he threw for 300 yards against the Titans. Titans' defense is middle of the road. At least that's much better than the Buccaneers.
That's true, but I mean, the whole point comes down to the reason that I continue to rank Allen and Dak so highly is that rushing quarterbacks are just a cheat code. They are. Lamar didn't have a good game last week. He scored 30 points.
Well, that's because he runs for 100 yards.
But if guys are going to run, that's worth so much more to me.
All right, that's certainly fair. So then, where did you put Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones barely runs.
He runs sometimes.
He kind of sucks. Once in a while. Kind of sucks.
No, kind of. I told you he sucks. Period.
He is better on the road than he is at home, though. So maybe.
Where'd you put David Blomey?
Oh, that's not good. Come on, man. Mr. Blau is pretty good.
No, that is pretty good. That's what I texted somebody when that first huge play. He throws one of the most awful passes you'll ever see, and then hits Golladay for that play. And it wasn't even being upset. It was just the upset of the fact that we all did it. We all ranked Kenny Golladay as a wide receiver 3 because this is somebody who was mediocre in college, hasn't done anything, was a backup to a backup in a bad matchup, and then does what he does. It's just, would you put it this way? Would you be surprised if Kenny Golladay comes out of this game with a much, much, much better matchup with one catch for 15 yards?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but I just feel like with Hulk Hogan to Miss Elizabeth that Mr. Blau has eyes for Kenny Golladay. That's the only guy he looks at going down the field.
Hey, that's certainly fair.
So tight ends, because I know you got a hard out here to go pick up your dog. In, I have Zach Ertz. Likely out, I have Hooper, Luke Wilson, Josh Oliver, David Njoku, Greg Olsen, Gerald Everett, Evan Ingram, Rhett Ellison. So that is going to affect a lot of stuff. Some of those guys end up playing and some of them don't. Placed on injured reserve was TJ Hawkincast. Number 1 in the rankings, even with the bad matchup, is Kelsey. Another bad matchup, don't care. George Kittle, number 2. I have Doyle at number 3. Andrews, Ertz, Henry, Waller. Fantasy Pros has gloriously ranked Jared Cook at number 8 against San Francisco. Have fun with that. Jacob Hollister at number 9. Ryan Griffin at number 10. Then we got Gesicki, Jaden Graham, Dallas Goedert, Caden Smith, Vance McDonald. I do like the playing. Like, I ended up playing Higbee everywhere last week against the Cardinals. Just Duck Hodges isn't good. Vance McDonald isn't good. I'm not buying it this week against the Cardinals.
I think that you could make an argument for him over the second guy. And the Giants have been good against the tight ends for Dallas Goedert.
That's all they got. Tight ends.
No, they have Zach Ertz, and Alshon Jeffrey is back in full force, 100% full force back. I would move Vance up a few spots. I wouldn't put him beside the top 10.
Vance reeks.
It's more so that offense.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's true, but that offense is still not going to be good. It's going to be a lot of running from Pittsburgh.
So you think it's going to be the second time a tight end hasn't produced? Because the only other one was Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, Eifert. Yeah, this feels like an Eifert type situation here.
Fair. I had Higbee at like 15 last week, and somebody was like, "That's going to be way too low." Well, kudos to you, dude. You were right.
Yeah, you're right. I think I ended up with him at 11 last week. Like, just like screw it.
I thought 15 was pretty aggressive.
No, you had to play Higbee, Eleanor Higbee.
Yeah, there you go.
I
had Jesper Horsted in like my top 30.
Hey, so did I. And then that's purely thanks to Davis on that one. Jaden Grant, if you have to pick up and stream a tight end this week, it's not a bad week for it. You have Gesicki you can pick up and play. You have Jaden Graham if Austin Hooper sits. Even Caden Smith, I think you can pick up and play if Ellison and Ingram are both out. Like, he's been pretty good the last 2 weeks.
Because he's basically Evan Ingram. He's just running routes. He's not asked to block a whole lot.
Yeah, he runs routes on 97% of the time he's on the field. It's pretty good.
Yep, I'm with you on Caden Smith. I actually feel a little bit better than I know he hit last week. And, we talked about it on the show, and you said Davis told you about that. I would actually feel better than Caden Smith than Jaden Graham at this point.
Oh, man, Jaden Graham won me some bucks on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but it's the volume. The volume for Caden Smith is higher.
True.
Just put Caden at 12 and then Graham, Goddard, McDonald.
No, I'd rather play Jaden Graham.
All right.
I'd rather play Jaden Graham with Matt Ryan throwing on the ball over, stinky Daniel Jones throwing anyone the ball.
Actually, if Golden Tate is still out, I would definitely move Caden Smith. Actually, if Golden Tate returns, this actually gets sketchy for Caden Smith.
I don't know about that because I think it hurts Sterling Shepard more than anything because then you bump Shepard back to the outside. Cody Latimer takes a seat on the bench. Then it's Tate and Smith on the inside, which is where
but Shepard has been playing some outside still.
I believe he played, 61% in the slot last week? Something around there?
That's not that the entire game.
Yeah, but he's not going to play any if Tate is active.
Right, but Tate is going to be over the middle of the field, and as a third option, I'm just saying, I think that you got 4 now for stinky Daniel Jones, and the volume, which I was talking about, is because you only had 3, and Slayton's the big threat, and Daniel Jones is good in the intermediate to short game. Well, you bring in another intermediate short game guy, and that's why I'm a little bit concerned if Tate comes back.
Okay. Defenses to wrap this up. We got Pittsburgh at number 1 against Arizona. Nice high pace offense for the Steelers to tee off on. The Ravens, Cowboys, Eagles, Vikings, Titans, Les Titans. Falcons, Patriots, Saints, Packers at number 10. Carolina, the Chiefs against the Patriots, who were probably going to be my favorite DraftKings D this week. Chicago, San Francisco, Houston, Cleveland, the Jets, Tampa, Indy, and then Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's going to be underrated. They've all of a sudden started getting to the quarterback, which kind of blows my mind.
It should blow your mind because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when you look at that roster.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to have Green Bay ranked number 1 this week, but the Redskins, regardless of what happens, are just going to run the ball, and that's not good.
And that's the biggest.
And that's not good for fantasy defenses.
No, and they haven't been taking the ball. They have been taking the ball out of Haskins' hands more as they've seen, and Green Bay's defense is like. Actually, Green Bay's defense could finish number 1, but it's been so all over the map that some weeks they look like, hey, this is a real problem to face them in the passing game. And then some weeks they just give up play after play after play after play. So I don't think I would rank them number 1 either, even if they're at this point, for what people have been talking about, what was it just 2-3 weeks ago, is face the Dolphins, put in your defense. Well, the Dolphins have turned things around too. So it's not always just a slap it up guarantee. I continue to credit you, and I agree with you. Go look at offensive lines and defensive lines, look at quarterback pressure, and just go for that, because pressure leads to potential turnovers, which leads to potential touchdowns.
Last thing before we get out of here, I got some breaking news for you, Jake. You ready?
What's that?
The Panthers have fired Ron Rivera.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. It finally happened?
Yeah.
No. This started with 2003? They were trying to get, I just feel like they've been trying to fire for 10 years.
What sort of impact do you think that will have on Carolina this week? Because I don't think it will have much.
I don't think it has anything. I don't think it has anything for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Norv Turner's going to continue to run his offense. That's going to be fine.
Yeah. They're just going to continue to be them. Christian McCaffrey is going to be Christian McCaffrey. Curtis Samuel will be we leave. He pulled the freaking Robbie Anderson on us, leave him for dead, and then he pops off like a jerk. But anyway, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Greg Olsen probably because you need a tight end. They're not going to switch quarterbacks to. I mean, I wanted to say Heineke was still there, but who's their backup now? Who's their backup for Kyle Allen?
I absolutely have no idea who their backup.
I'm actually checking right now.
I'm not.
Super it's Will Greer.
Oh,
they drafted him. So
I know they drafted him, but are they really going to? Kyle Allen. Well, what do you think this does for Cam then? If they fire Rivera, does that mean Cam's gone too?
I don't think it should.
I think they would be nuts to get rid of Cam Newton.
So would I, but we've seen teams be nuts before. I still think you bring Cam back no matter what. And what Colin Allen has proven, you have, whether or not he's 100%, I think is the only determining factor at this point, because if he's anywhere near, if he's 95% for the rest of his career, you have still a franchise Super Bowl caliber difference-making quarterback who everybody was talking about heading into this season, had 2+ touchdowns every single game from week 3 through, 14, somewhere around there last year, including multiple games when he got hurt against the Lions. You don't get rid of Cam Newton.
Yeah, and he was dealing with a shoulder issue. Then he basically broke his foot. So with a year off, he should be good to go by next September. Right? If they get rid of him, whoever gets him is going to be very, very happy.
Yeah, hopefully happier than whoever gets Marcus Mariota to back up their quarterback.
I think Kyle Allen has proven that he's a backup, like a legitimate backup quarterback in the league. You could put in Kyle Allen and win a game. If you ask him to start 16 games, you're not going to be so hot.
I'm trying to look at teams that would make sense for Cam Newton.
Denver.
I'm just thinking of. No, get rid of Winston. Bring in Cam Newton.
Really?
I'm done with Winston. I love him for fantasy. You know that. And one of the most successful things I've been doing on DraftKings this year is playing a ton of Naked Jameis. It finally didn't work last week too well, but I still cashed because I had Woods and Parker. But Naked Jameis in DraftKings is terrific.
I always try to pair him up with either Godwin or Evans.
No, that's why you play him naked.
No. See, what I end up doing is I just play, if I'm doing Jameis, I usually play 12 teams. So I'll pick 3 quarterbacks and build 4 separate teams. So I just do 2 Jameis Evans, 2 Jameis Godwin, and then I'll be right on 2 of the teams.
Yeah, but you lose the other 2.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I'm not trying to win all of my lineups. I'm trying to win one of my lineups.
All the monies? All right.
Yeah, that's the way you got to. You got to take some risk here. If you're not willing to lose your money playing, there's no chance you could ever win, Jake.
Well, also, if you're not willing to lose your money, you shouldn't play, period. Lessons to be learned when you go to Vegas or DraftKings.
Yeah, anytime that you're going to put your hands into the fate of people playing sports, that's probably the best way to go.
True. And when you start losing, don't start putting more money in. It never works.
Yeah, not a great method. It's like I have a friend who does that with blackjack. He gets out, he's like, I'm going to start tripling my bet, and then 4 minutes later, he's outside smoking with no money. It's not a great strategy, man.
No, it never is.
Jake Ciely, follow him on Twitter at AllInKid. Check out his work at theathletic.com. What do you got for us in terms of podcasts this week?
Yeah, I just finished the D'Angelo show earlier today. We were talking about what playoff teams, what they're lacking for, and coming up with the playoffs. What do they need? The betting scenario where it's kind of interesting to find out whether or not people bet, and I'll let you listen for the answer, whether players do actually bet outside of that one knucklehead. But in general, that's out there. The throwbacks Mondays and Wednesdays. So preview of the week, and then the rankings pod. I don't know, my pod. Just go to the All In Kid when I tweet it out like you do. I schedule my tweets like you do every single day.
Yeah, you got to do that. That way you don't have to be on Twitter 24 hours a day. You just make it appear like you're on Twitter 24 hours a day. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me on Twitter at @ThePME. Same as Facebook, same as Instagram. If you want to play in the Pat Mayo Experience DraftKings Listeners League, hit the description. of this video or podcast. Get the link, $15 to enter, 3 max entry, no rake. It is the best tournament on DraftKings. All of the rankings are in the description as well, and they are up on dkplaybook.com. The audio version will be up soon. If you want to get into a draw for $60 DK, subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast, leave a 5-star review, DraftKings handle, and something you like about this show, at least the audio version of the show, which is the same show. And you're in the draw for $60 DK. If you want to get in the draw for $20 DK for the video, smash the like, leave your DraftKings handle, and rank Benny Snell in the Week 14 PPR running back rankings. That'll do it for myself and Jake. Good luck in the fantasy playoffs. I'll see you next time.